Before we go into some announcements, I just want to note that this session is normally hosted at Fannie Mae's office in Reston, Virginia, when we're not in a pandemic. Becky Loveking, who's here this evening as well, is usually the host. Becky, is there anything that you wanted to say before we get started?
No, usually I would say welcome to Fannie Mae and welcome to the facilities, but since we're not doing that this time, I'd just say welcome to this interesting talk, and we all hope that we'll be together in person sometime soon.
All right, thank you, Becky. I also want to take an opportunity to remind people that we're always looking for speakers for this meetup, and we have presentations given on a quarterly basis. So our next one will be in the May timeframe. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have a talk that you'd be interested in giving. I'd also hate to miss this opportunity to advertise some upcoming events. Coveros is going to be hosting an event with Mark Schwartz, who's a very prominent figure in our industry, about DevOpsing your bureaucracy. That'll be coming up on March 4th. And if you're interested in that, you can click the link that I just pasted into the chat. Of course, want to promote Star East, which is coming up April 26th to 30th, and there's super early bird savings until February 26th. I'll again paste a link to that in the chat. And of course, Coveros or TechWell will also have two other events, Agile plus DevOps West and East, coming up in June and November. I pasted the dates for those conferences in the chat. The later out conferences, such as the one in November, we're still not sure if they'll be in person or not, but we'll keep you all updated as we observe the state of the world and the current pandemic. With that, I don't believe I have any further announcements, so I want to introduce our speaker for this evening, Erica Chesnut, who is the head of QA at Calendly, and will be giving us 4 strategies to champion quality. Erica?
Hello, hello. All right, well, let's get into it. I'm Erica Chesnut. I'm so excited that you guys are here, and like Jonathan said, we are going to talk about 4 strategies to champion quality. So, here's the good news. We're going to start off with some good news. There's no homework because we're going to do it live. So, stay tuned after the presentation as we work through these 3 questions here. Jonathan, would you mind dropping these in the chat for everyone? I'd love for you guys to soak these up as we are working through the material and really be thinking about these, and we'll come back to them at the end, all right? Thank you, Jonathan. All right, let's get into it. Can I get a show of hands, Kira, this is for you, of how many of you majored in computer science, or drop it in chat. How many of you are majored in computer science? All right, got a few folks. All right, question. Do you remember having in-depth discussions about quality during your sessions? Yep, there we go. No is usually the response I hear. But why? Why don't most computer science degrees include an in-depth discussion on quality? Some touch on unit testing, but most don't make the connection between application engineering best practices and quality. They don't teach things like test strategy or test planning or writing effective test cases or even planning for effective and scalable test automation. And it's not that developers aren't interested in quality engineering or that they don't want to produce a high quality product, but the importance and value of quality engineering is not talked about. It's not championed the same way that application development is. Developers have to intentionally learn about quality. They have to seek out standards and best practices. However, it's likely that most pick up their knowledge on the job. Sometimes they pick up good habits and, well, other times, yeah, those. When I interview developers, I ask them about their views on quality and their experience with test teams. I get back all kinds of answers. I've never worked with the QA team before, but I bet they could have helped, or I love my QA team, they protect me. There's a whole nother conversation right there. We don't have a test team. We write automation and that's enough. Yeah. The one thing these developers usually have in common is that they are experiencing quality engineering as an afterthought. They haven't been taught the idea that testing strategy should be defined and matured just like developing best practices. or that both development strategy and test strategy should be closely coupled to get the most value. If it was, I believe that we'd actually have more developers open to software development test engineering opportunities instead of only looking at testing as sometimes a stepping stone into a development role for a company that they're really interested in. Or worse, not even seeing testing as an opportunity at all. Case in point, I recently consulted a tester who was very passionate about his role, was trying desperately to figure out how to get leadership to value the voice of quality within his organization. He was raising concerns about the impact their current processes were having on the test experience and ultimately the quality of their product. His concerns were pushed to the side and ignored. He didn't have anyone championing for quality in his organization. And as you can imagine, that lack of advocacy from leadership comes with some major hits to the quality team morale and ultimately their perceived value in the organization. QA team members aren't included in critical conversations. QA work is not accounted for as part of the definition of done. Testing is perceived as a bottleneck. Testing activities are perceived as overkill. This results in a testing team that is less confident. They're afraid to speak up, and they do not provide the full value that they are capable of. That is why we need to champion quality on your squads, on your teams, and in your organization. So let's build a strong foundation and talk about 4 strategies to champion quality within your organization. First up, we need to lay the foundation. We want to empower others to infuse quality in their business areas by laying the foundation for quality. That foundation is made up of our North Star, our definition of quality, our roles and responsibilities, and our test pyramid. Let's dig into each of these. First up, you should define your North Star. The North Star is symbolic in many ways. It is the anchor of our northern sky. It is a landmark or sky marker that helps us help those who follow it determine direction as it glows brightly to guide and lead toward a purposeful destination. Your North Star should be a point of light and guidance for quality within your organization. It needs to be a mission, a vision that pushes QA outside of the review column. You want to make a statement that broadens your scope and your reach. Now, mind you, this won't happen overnight, but you want to be able to look up to see where you want to go. When you define your North Star, I suggest you start by looking at your company's core values. What do they say? What is your company focused on? What is it that they want? How do they want to represent themselves as an organization? What one thing has leadership repeatedly said they want there to be their focus? At Calendly, one of our core values is start with human. I would dare say it's our most important core value and was the driving sentiment behind our QE team's North Star, which is we strive to cultivate a quality engineering practice wherein QA drives quality standards and processes that enable and empower everyone in the organization to infuse quality outside of their business or into their business areas. In starting with human, we crafted a North Star that was inclusive and supportive of others. And don't just stop at your company's core values. Look at the goals or OKRs for your company and your department. Do you see a pattern, a direction? This is another opportunity for alignment. We can even take that a step further and look at the past few quarters or even years. But also, take this as an opportunity to connect with your leadership team. Ask them how they developed their company vision. Ask them how they develop their core values. Ask them where they see your team going. See, with this, embedding their expectations for your team in your North Star can have a major impact on getting their buy-in later. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. In the end, you want to make sure you understand leadership's why. If you don't, ask more questions to find out. Another way to lay the foundation is to define what quality is in your organization. And this can be different for everyone. What are your quality's key performance indicators or KPIs? How many bugs leaked to production? How long bugs stayed in production? The severity of issues leaked to production? Or are you looking at the number of bugs found prior to production versus looking at the number of bugs found in production? Are you looking at the number of bugs that were escalated by customers versus the ones that you found internally? The question comes back to, how does your organization define quality? What is acceptable? What is not? What is your measurement? You want to define a model that everybody gets behind and understands so that you're all aligned when you say either We have high quality or we have low quality. You want to make sure that everybody understands exactly what that means. At Calendly, we look at our monthly active users overlaid with our escalations from customers because we want to understand how it affects them. This is driven by actually 3 out of 4 of our core values. Start with human, strive for excellence, and focus wisely. This helps us to understand how we are impacting the humans that we love so much, the users of our application. We also use a severity matrix, which overlays the functional impact of the issue with the number of users experiencing the issue to determine the severity rating. This aligns the team on the conversation on how impactful an issue is because we're all measuring it the same way. The resulting rating is then used to determine when an issue is expected to be resolved in production based on our service level agreements, or SLAs, which defines the engineering team's commitment to remedy production defects. We then track and measure things like how many production bugs we have logged, what is their severity, and have they breached those service level agreements. We do this because it's easy to dismiss a small UI bug or lesser used feature bug, especially when we look at them individually and say they don't impact as many people or are not impacting a critical functional area. It's just one tiny bug. However, for us, tracking across and measuring these, you look across the conversation, you might find that your customers are suffering from death by 1,000 cuts, where a high number of small, minor bugs are tripping the customer up everywhere they turn. Or you might also discover that a large number of your users are raising concerns about the same small UI issue. That's also problematic. But you have to understand, what is your team's view on this? Do you consider any of these a quality impacting event? Your understanding leads to a defining of your quality standards for your application and for your organization. As quality professionals, we don't want our customers to be impacted by issues. But of course, we have to reasonably assume that it can and will happen. Therefore, we want to have a plan in place that empowers the whole team to prioritize and resolve using the same guidelines. Having a definition for quality sets the standards that everyone agrees to adhere to. And when those standards are not met, we have an agreement in place on how and when we will resolve that as an issue. Again, your team's definition for quality will set the standard that everyone will execute. And of course, this is the ideal. This is what our North Star is guiding us to. And when we have defined what quality is, we then want to get clear on who is responsible for quality. Now, if you're screaming, everyone, hopefully in your head, yes, you're right. But what are their responsibilities? Everyone plays a role in quality, yes. But to really make that work, you have to set expectations for each area of the business. You have to define where things start and stop. What are the touch points? What are the deliverables? This not only helps to avoid stepping on each other's feet, but it also helps avoid costly redundancy. We want to empower everyone to infuse quality within their area of business. In doing so, you ensure that you have a unified testing strategy that provides comprehensive coverage and eliminates that costly redundancy. A testing strategy that works together instead of against itself. Now, the last thing we want to do to lay our foundation is to use our North Star, our definition of quality, and our roles and responsibilities to define and defrag our test pyramid. But first, chime in the chat if you're familiar with defragging. No? Okay, I'm just gonna age myself. Now, I haven't used a Windows machine for many, many years, so I'm not sure if this is still a thing, but when I worked in desk-side support, as I worked across almost all of technology, it feels like, defragging was one of the go-to solutions when things started to slow down considerably on a Windows computer. I have always pictured it like Tetris, moving things around so they fit nicely together with no gaps. But it's really putting things in sequential order right next to each other so that the hard drive doesn't need to run around in circles to read a single file. We actually want to leverage both of these concepts when we start planning our test pyramid. We'll leverage our roles and responsibilities to help us put testing in the proper order with things like touch points and artifacts, and how we're moving through those roles and responsibilities and expectations and how they're moving through the teams that are responsible for them. We're understanding these gaps. Can help drive conversations like, would we be more efficient using a particular tool? Is it valuable to develop strategic partnerships? Is it time to develop strategic partnerships? Is there an opportunity to outsource some of this work? Does that make sense? Defining our test pyramid will help us to get to the right people, tools, and processes in the right seat, doing the right job at the right time. At Calendly, our testing guild is going through this exercise right now. Our testing guild includes both application developers and test engineers that are passionate about quality. And we're defining what's at each layer, understanding if current roles and responsibilities need to change, looking for opportunities to leverage technology to work smarter and not harder, and ensuring that our test pyramid is aligned with our quality standards. Or another way to put that is aligned with our definition of quality. We'll work as a team to document things like processes, expectations, and success metrics. Then we'll get buy-in from leadership, ding ding, said that a second time, and then roll out across engineering. So now that you know what type of testing you have and what type of testing you want, you could put this in a rubric or a quality maturity model, because let's face it, there's always room for improvement. A rubric can help you see where you are, where you're going, and allow you to look back on where you've been. Now, trust me, this can be simple or overly complex, so I will caution you not to overthink it at first, i.e., don't do what I did. Instead, start by capturing the areas of quality that you are focused on today. Some of this will surface by what you have defined as quality in your organization. An example, customer escalations. We need a process to track and manage bugs. We need a strategy to measure and analyze customer satisfaction related to the quality application. Think about what's needed to accomplish that level of quality. You need a bug tracking system. You need a way to monitor issues that are raised in production. This could then translate to define maturity in your bug management strategy or your reporting strategy. Where are you today? How do you need to improve? And how does that align with industry standards even? What does it mean to be best in class in these areas? The goal is to look across your developing strategy and to put it into a format or formula that will help you clearly define what your next step, even next 10 steps are. You then use that to build out your quality roadmap. It can be as far as 5 years or as close as tomorrow. Your quality maturity model is a detailed map that will help you get there. This, I've included here a great example from Greg Seasfalt at Everfi. He uses a grading rubric to monitor and manage the maturity of his test organization. And even better, it gives him a model to share with leadership for their buy-in. There it is again. Why does she keep saying that? Well, I'm glad you asked. When we lay the foundation for quality, we empower others to infuse quality in their business areas. But before we roll that out, we want to leverage the second strategy to champion quality. We want to get leadership buy-in. Dun, dun, dun. But first, we interrupt this program for a note on influence, or the ability to influence. It's a major part of our role as quality professionals. Whether you're an individual contributor or a leader, you have to be able to influence others to not only hear your problems, but to care about your problems. Leadership buy-in is a powerful strategy to leverage when working to gain influence. It will help you gather momentum. Think of it like the snowball effect. It starts with this cute little snowball, it collects snow and gets bigger and bigger until it's formidable and can't be stopped no matter what's in the way. That small, unassuming snowball that starts at the top of a really big hill is leadership's buy-in to your North Star, your definition of quality, your maturity model, and roadmap. Secret here is to connect yourself to their problems. Make their concerns your concerns. What's keeping your leadership team up at night? What are they worried about happening? What do they want to be assured will not happen or assured will remain the same? i.e., standard of quality excellence does not diminish as the application scales. I guarantee you every executive is concerned about this. And because you've done the work to align your North Star with leadership's visions and goals and overall company direction, they are more likely to link arms with you and champion those quality principles and ideals from the top down. Can I get a hashtag winning? Because here's the thing. It does two very important things. It shows them we are in this together. And it allows you to get their push to solve your problem because it's their problem. but it's really your problem, even though it's their problem. But yeah, okay, get the picture. Endpoint, it's a win-win. So now that we've got this hot rod engine, i.e. leadership buy-in, it's time to get in the driver's seat. Disclaimer, I will try my best to avoid the slippery slope of car and driving analogies here, but also here we are. I digress. Our third strategy to champion quality is about leading quality standards and processes. When QA becomes the driver, you are no longer the person that is merely waiting to test. You are the person that is driving the conversation. What should be tested, when it should be tested, how it should be tested. You're driving conversations around standards. What are they? How we uphold them, how we mature them. A great way to get into the driver's seat is the DAISY model. The DAISY model is a decision-making framework that stands for driver, approver, contributor, and informed. It helps by giving each person involved in the decision-making process a specific role, making you more efficient and effective. We actually use this model to change how we talk about RCAs at Calendly. We have a really solid incident response strategy, and we're clear as an organization that we must provide RCAs, but we've struggled with roles and responsibilities related to them. Who's responsible for planning, for organizing, or running the RCA? How much ownership did the dev lead have? And this was especially tricky when the dev lead was not the person who was solving the problem per se. Furthermore, we would often miss getting the right people in the room for the RCA. I'm sure y'all know what's coming. Or stated more plainly, you didn't invite QA again. Reminder, the reality is that testing can still unintentionally be an afterthought, even in awesome organizations like Calendly. Leveraging the DAISY framework to define and manage our RCA strategy helped us to set clear roles alongside expectations of those roles and deliverables out of the process. It was another way for us to all speak the same language and read from the same page. Are you asking questions in your head again? Want to know how to get in the driver's seat? Pro tip, getting in the driver's seat isn't actually about the QA team. It's about how we enable and empower others to infuse quality. Remember, we're driving toward our North Star. We're driving toward that vision that we have already aligned with leadership's vision. And we're helping others to align to those quality standards as well. We're providing whatever others need to ensure quality in their business area. Is it product documentation, application workflows, or personas? Maybe it's collaboration with the design team on UX, working with product to define and test for solid user stories, or developing quality dashboards to understand vulnerabilities in an application or in a functional area. Or maybe it's testing, manual, automation, performance, accessibility. We want to drive the conversation through processes, standards, and documentation to help others deliver high quality in their business function. To be clear, it does not mean that you're the only person that defines it and then says this is what happens, but rather we want to pull the right people into the conversation. We want to collaborate. For example, at Calendly, we are collaborating across product and engineering and individual squads to get everyone to document in a way that is mindful of what others need out of documentation. And the documentation can be anything: product documentation, acceptance criteria, user stories, workflow diagrams. You guys are always going to hear me say that. But we're also showcasing the touch points alongside those deliverables, which creates more accountability for the group delivering those items. And when we add in the DAISY framework to this conversation, we all get very clear on the roles, responsibilities, and artifacts associated with those touch points. In driving the standards, we are saying, this is what we believe is needed to assure and ensure quality. It's the starting point for the collaboration across engineering and across the business. And QA may not always be the driver in the conversation. You may need to be in the contributor seat or even the informed seat. However, if you're looking up at your North Star and allowing it to guide like how, when, and why we test, I dare say that QA can always be the driver to at least start the conversation around quality engineering practices, processes, and standards in each business area. All right, we're almost to the finish line, and we finally get to talk about my favorite strategy, cultivating cheerleaders. I mean, what champion team do you know that doesn't have awesome cheerleaders? So, first up, let's talk about inside the team. What does it mean to be a cheerleader for quality when you're on the quality team? You want to empower your team members to be cheerleaders for quality values and culture within your organization. And you do that through influential leadership. You're sharing all that goodness that we talked about earlier, your North Star, definition of quality, test pyramid, quality maturity, and a rubric. You're getting your team up to speed and bought into the vision, the strategy, and the roadmap. And you get props from your team when you talk about the momentum you've gained by aligning with leadership. And no, it's not because they're brown nosers. I mean, some of them may be, but this isn't the reason. It's because they now know that they have the backing to be able to advocate for this change. They know that they don't have to fight they don't have a fight in front of them to make the changes that improve what they care most about, quality. The result? An empowered QA team member who will speak confidently at every level because they understand the vision and values of quality at your organization. This will, without a doubt, shift the conversation out of the QA review column because your team will feel empowered to speak up and cheer on opportunities to infuse quality. Now, your cheerleaders outside of the team may look and sound a little bit different. They may not be driven by their passion for quality per se, but instead they are motivated when you align your problems with theirs and then deliver or present solutions that solve both of your problems. Now, of course, this is not to say that you have to run around solving everyone's problems, but when you can find solutions that help others improve as well as yourself, you are creating cheerleaders for quality. And it shows up in all kinds of ways. These are the people in the organization that are constantly giving QA their props in Slack messages or town hall meetings. These are the people that will call out individuals to say, I love having this particular person on the team because they always ask insightful questions that help us uncover edge cases we didn't consider. Or they're the ones that are speaking about the culture of quality within the organization. And they are championing the idea of quality with everyone else. Once again, they are speaking about the culture of quality in your organization. These cheerleaders engage at all levels and push the narrative for developing strategy across the organization. This is a crucial ingredient to championing quality. A thing to remember is that championing quality is about advocating for quality standards, processes, and best practices, with the end goal being the customer's delight. Stacy Kirk, CEO of Quality Works, said it best in her recent Tech Beacon article. Now more than ever, it's critical to build quality-driven teams where each member is considered a champion of quality and of the end user. All right, let's keep the conversation going. Who wants to be a brave volunteer and answer our first question? Jonathan, can you drop those back in chat for me?
Absolutely.
So our first question was, how do you get in the driver's seat for quality? What are some ways that a brave soul who would love to come on video would like to get in the driver's seat for quality? Oh, come on. Don't leave me hanging out here.
I'll say something.
Okay.
I want to say first and foremost, this was an awesome discussion, and I would say, while I do build community in my company, I think one of the biggest things that I've seen from our global customers at Testem has been going back about how you're measuring quick wins for your customers. So being sure to communicate those quick wins right away. And I think also too, measuring the impact. I think the other part too is making sure that you're keeping everyone's work very visible internally. That's been a big thing that I've seen our customers do. Really working internally to create a incentives program that gets people excited. So maybe you're a small team and you're using something like Hey Taco to get product and dev involved. I can't speak at it from an executive perspective, and I'm really excited for other people's thoughts. But that's been a big part, is keeping it top of mind. It has to be present. And I think that incentivizing people to celebrate other people's invisible work has been key internally for what I've done for our devs and product leaders. What I've also seen for our customers has been celebrating those small wins and communicating them across all the channels. That's really how I've seen our customers be successful, celebrating those quick, easy wins and measuring what is the long-term wins for their customers. I know it's a little bit of a ramble, but I think internal buy-in is a huge part. And I think celebrating quick wins, those would be some things I'd share. I just went first. That's all.
No, that's great. You know, you pulled up the collaboration piece. You pulled up the measurement metrics and being able to showcase even, you know, even if it's not a success metric, if it's not doing so well, right? Like, you're bringing that forward to keep the conversation, like you said, it's keeping it top of mind. And I see a few comments in chat. Regina said quality for standards, processes, and practices, and that set the team North Star on quality. So I'm asking, like, how would these are yes, absolutely, documentation, standards. And I'm curious what you guys would do in your organization. What are some things that you can do that it might align with the quality, developing the quality standards and processes or practices? Is there something missing that you have there? It might align with setting the team North Star. Do you have a North Star today? Do you have something that you're looking at? Are you aligned with it? Is it something that's being presented to the organization? What are some things that you guys can do to get in the driver's seat? Maybe it's more, maybe it's further down in your stack. Maybe it's, you know, communicating, having more points of collaboration, a dev pairing session on test strategy. You're driving the conversation on what should be tested, and you're getting ahead of development, and you're getting ahead of building out a test strategy and saying, hey, let's collaborate on this and make sure that we're building, you know, you're working on unit tests and I'm not duplicating any of that effort. That's getting into the driver's seat for quality. Let's make sure that we're owning building a quality practice and a quality test strategy, a high quality test strategy and a high quality test practice by infusing these things, and how do we improve in that area? Anybody else?
Hi, Erica.
Hi.
So I was going to add, I think it's really important to take the pulse of both the quality team and the developers regularly, see what kind of challenges they're finding, what kind of bugs they're running into while they're developing, what are the pain points, and keep that in mind when building the quality strategy and you know, your North Star. How can we improve quality, not just of the product, but within the team, and make sure everyone's enjoying the process of building in quality to the product? You know, what are some ways we can help with, you know, build issues that are making it challenging for developers to run their tests, for example?
That's a great one, you know, especially touching on the how are they, you know, are they enjoying the process? Wow, that's really insightful, Sarah, you know, to talk about, because oftentimes developers I've seen, you know, resistance because it's too many gates or it's slowing it down, right? And that's when you get into this conversation about testing is overkill, you're doing too much testing, because they don't trust the process, because they're also getting pushed from somewhere else to, you know, the whole squad in theory is getting pushed to deliver at a speed, but developers have thought about, you know, they came first in the stack, if you will, for what they're delivering, and now it's coming through to QA to round out, and developers may have taken a little bit longer, you know, for whatever reason, and now QA, they're like, hey, you just got to get it done. And that's a struggle that we fight against, but also when looking at, you know, the enjoyment in the process, did it make sense? Did they have everything that they needed? And that's getting outside of that QA review column and saying, what does quality look like? How do we create quality across our team? And why were there problems? Why were there gates? Or why was there potentially over testing? Why did it take longer for QA? Why did it take longer for development? What was missing? Did we have clearly defined stories? Did we have clearly defined acceptance criteria? And getting QA in that position where they are driving that conversation. We want to improve quality, not just like Sarah said, quality application, quality of our process, quality of the delivery cycle, because that's what's also impacting what we're delivering to our customers, for sure. Thank you for that. So what about our second question? What is your top method?
I wanted to add something.
Yeah.
Yes, so I think like most of the organization, they think like quality is just for the quality people. So I think like that's I mean, it's like something that we need like to educate like the rest of the team, like the developers and managers, because they always think like quality is for the QA. So if something is wrong, we're gonna blame them. So I think like the best approach can be like an educational part that as a QA, you need to come and step up and kind of like educate the team on the way that you explain that, you know, like the process is not only me or us, it's only like, it's all like, it's the team, you know, because at the end of the day, when we deliver the product with the good quality, they're not gonna just come and say, hey, the quality team, you did really great. So it's everyone, you know, it's the developer, the leadership, and the quality assurance. So that's all I wanted to add, to kind of like give them education in terms of like quality is for all, not for like quality assurance only.
Absolutely, absolutely. I completely agree. And that is another part of getting in the driver's seat, is that we're talking to everybody and saying we want us to all go here. So it's starting, you know, we talk about starting the conversation, and we might move from that driver's seat to the contributor or even the informed, but we want to make sure that that conversation is happening. We want to make sure that we're solving for quality, not just at that end stage of the review cycle, but instead, how are we infusing quality best practices and standards throughout the entire delivery? And where do we see fail points even, or just point opportunities to improve that are going to improve or create efficiencies downstream and improve quality downstream, for sure. Anybody else? Awesome. So next question, any brave volunteers? What is your top method for selling software quality to your executive team? You guys gonna do it again? How are you going to go about getting their buy-in?
I will say, sorry to interrupt, Sarah Miles is an industry leader in this field. Erica, I don't know if you knew that. So if Sarah does not say something,
Sarah, you got called out.
called in.
No
My
pressure,
answer
no
says called
pressure.
in.
Thanks, Tristan. All right. So I guess my number one method for making sure quality is kept in the conversation is to just be kind of annoying and bring it up all the time whenever you're in conversations. Talk about your team and the things that you have accomplished, especially the stuff that's not so visible. You know, we've got sprint demos, but we don't always show things that are like, hey, we built this new reporting tool for our bugs. Isn't that really great? And see how it's improved things. You know, just talk up your team, talk about, you know, even at the earliest point of a new feature, say, this is a really great feature. How do you think we should test it? Or what are some testing considerations you would make? You know, whenever we have town halls, ask questions about how they're feeling about the quality, and just keep it in their ear. Maybe kind of a you know, always in the back of their head, they hear your voice.
Exactly.
So I would say.
No, I completely agree. It's top of mind. It is always staying top of mind and finding those ways to stay top of mind. You know, it's storytelling came up in a conversation on Slack, and finding a way to talk about quality from a story perspective so that it sticks with them. You want to get the emotion so that the interest stays with them because they have an emotion connected with it. Oh, that's interesting. I'm happy about this. Or, oh, I don't like that. That's not okay. And it's less, it's less about the number of story points and and how we manage velocity and how many bugs we found, but instead, what is the impact? How are we impacting the humans? How are we impacting the customers that we love? And when you start to frame it around that conversation, and you can frame so much around that conversation, you have to sometimes, really distill it down. You've got to get to that story. But when you do, it's something that you can present and something that people can latch onto, if you will.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you're obviously a leader in your field and you're head of QA at Calendly, which is like a big deal. You weren't always the head of QA at Calendly, right? Without and this can be from any past leadership role without giving obviously any IP or anything away, can you maybe share the time when you tried to sell, software quality to executives and it didn't go well?
Oh,
that to me, these talks are always in general are about all the wins and amazing things. And I don't know, I'm going to be Brene Brown here. I want to hear about software quality heartbreak and what you learned from that. I know. Ooh.
So much of that was, it's happened a few times, but the big ones were probably at the beginning of my career when I moved from development into QA. And that was because leadership wasn't bought into quality. And I think that's why I've learned over time, the storytelling piece and how to get, make sure that you're staying in front of leadership. But I complained about quality. And so I guess they thought maybe if I was responsible for it, I would stop complaining about it. And so they presented an opportunity for me to move from development and build quality. And I eventually said yes. I said no at first because I was afraid that they were going to blame me for things. And when I said yes, we didn't have a team. We didn't have a budget. And this was an advertising agency. So budget was directly related to what you'd bill to the client. And that budget did not exist. And so I had to start presenting, hey, this is what we would not have missed, right, had we had quality professionals. And there was a lot of resistance. It was a team of 3 for a 200-person org with a 70-person development team for a hot minute there, and so it was okay, well, you know what, I actually just spoke to I spoke to a mentee today exactly about this thing. I said she almost is in the exact same situation where she's got a scrappy startup and they're scaling up, but nobody's really recognizing the need and the value of quality. They say, yes, we want testing because we put something out there and it crashed and burned and we need to fix that, but they're not doing the things that they need to do to correct it. And so they just have a team of 2 and trying to support all of these developers. And I told her, I said, your developers, your test engineers are going to get burnt out because they're trying to solve for all of them. You need to rein them in and have them focus on a critical area of the application and then communicate that to leadership and then showcase the value out of that, like a flower blossoming. It's hey, you see all the rubble around me, but this flower right here is awesome. And if you want this flower over there, then you need to put a tester seed over there and a flower will grow, right? So yeah, I guess the fail point was just having to constantly go to them. I had to find creative ways to convince them that they needed to invest and then also to empower them with information to share with our clients who ultimately had to foot the bill. Mm-hmm. So we had to get really creative, but it took a little while.
No, and I appreciate you sharing that. Angela Clayton has some amazing points in the chat, so I'm gonna close my mic.
They don't want flowers. Wait, okay. Angela, talk to me. 70%. Oh my goodness, 70-person developer team with 2 QAs, and I'm not at a startup. Oh my. They're definitely burned out. Chia pets. Angela, come on, you got to talk to me. You want chia pets? They don't want flowers. That's hard. So can I call on you, Angela? You want to talk to me? No. Because I want to know. I want to know how you're managing it. I want to know. I tell my team, we can't solve all the problems, and all the problems are not our fault, right? But we can't always ask ourselves, how can we be accountable to solving it? Where can we step in? Whether it's our fault or not, whether it's truly our problem to solve, how can we help, right? How can we be accountable to solving it? So I'm curious, for you, what are some of the things that you're doing, and maybe getting in the driver's seat for QA, and if you feel that's even possible. Angela's not going to talk to me now. All right. Okay. Anybody want to talk about their North Star for quality in one sentence? What you might think your North Star is? Or if you have one, anybody want to share that?
Hey Erica, this is Sharmila. I'm a QA lead in a small cybersecurity startup. So for me, I have a very pleasant experience with QA because the push for quality is top down. So it starts from the CEO, CTO. And one thing which has been a North Star for us is the continuous feedback. So we've been able to ramp up on automation and give the continuous feedback to CEO or CTO and show the importance of quality so they know and they are aware of the state of the application at any given point of time. So for us, automation has been like a big backbone to push for quality.
That is awesome. That's great. Yeah, sharing the story, right? How are we doing? What does quality look like? For sure. Anybody else? Thank you, Shamila. All right. I won't pester you guys anymore. Does anybody have any questions? Anything you wanted to talk about besides my questions? Oh, what is an example of a North Star? Our North Star at Calendly is...
All right, can you hear me now?
Oh, yes.
Sorry, I got kicked out and I was trying to make my microphone wouldn't work. So I was trying to say that I am on a 70-person team, development team. There are 2 testers. We have to defend testing every day. They send things out into production. And we get blamed, but every time they talk about hiring more people, I'm like, well, when are we going to come through? When are we going to come to hire more testers? And they're like, you guys can handle it. And I'm like, no, we actually cannot.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah. I think for you, you've got to tell them the story of why you can't handle it and where you guys are, Were you going to say something?
No, I said, we have. And I feel it, kind of I told them they were disrespectful the other day because it's, I've been working in the same industry for 20 years and in the beginning of my career, I was doing hardware testing. So you don't really have to defend hardware. They can actually see it doesn't work, Right. And then I switched over to software, like maybe 3 years into my career. And ever since I've been software testing, I have been having to defend why you need testing And, you know, it was okay. It was getting better, but then everybody went to the cloud and it's like, oh, I can't see it. So if Amazon or Azure is up, you know, like, then it should work. So why doesn't it work? You know?
Oh man. Yeah. Katie put who is hiring, give Angela some remote job links.
Right.
How many hiring? We post jobs, new jobs every quarter, just saying. Oh man, that's hard. I'm with Katie. Who's hiring? That's you know, I mean, it sounds like you're like you said, you're in constant defense. You're having to prove your worth, not even just prove your value, but prove your worth. And that to QA to 70 developers in today's type of systems, I was talking about marketing and we didn't have nearly as many, we only had 3 major applications and then everything else was like literally marketing stuff. So it was landing pages and stuff like that. So it was easier for us. But oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I'm in awe. Like, it's just, it sounds like you're fighting the good fight. And I think I don't know your full environment, but if there's an opportunity for you to scale down and say, hey, we're going to focus on this area and make this area excellent. Right? I was talking earlier about we're gonna grow a flower out of this rubble. The rest of the rubble is gonna remain. We're gonna show you what it looks like to have excellent testing and in this area, because this is what we can handle. And then, you know, allowing everything else to crumble, making sure that everything is, that leadership understands that you're doing this, but get into that one area and be like, we're boss here. And this is why it's this, look at this, it's awesome. So if you want this to be done over here, then you need to stop hiring developers and hire QA, or you can do both, but you need to make sure you scale up QA because we can't continue to do all of that.
Well, one of the things I've been making them do is they wanted to switch to the agile, you know, process, and because it supports a government customer, you know, it's never truly agile. It's always agile-like or like, you know, mini waterfalls. One of the things that I've been doing the beginning of every sprint is I'm like, okay, what are your priorities? What are you going to deliver? And if they can't give me, like, you can't say 20 things are your priority. You can't deliver 20 things and all of those functional areas are your priority. No, you have 2 people, you can scale it down to 5 and we'll get to the little, you know, minor things, you know, as we can, because there's always some kind of fire that happens during a sprint that you can't predict. So you can't overtask us, you know. So I have been fighting, and you know, after a point it comes out as very contentious, and I don't really like that feel.
Yeah, I can understand that. You know, and there's something there that's clearly we're fighting for you, and that's great to have that passion about quality. I would suggest you work on getting allies, and so that it's not just you fighting, and I mean allies outside of QA of 2.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been trying, and you know, they always are like, okay, well, if you document it, we'll follow it. But the people who told me to document it are the main ones that don't follow the documentation. So,
and like Sarah said, I am here. I am always here. I will stay here. I'm going to talk to you about it. I'm not going anywhere. I will say the same thing over and over and over again. And that's where that passion for not only quality, but for the organization that you're working for and the application that you're working on and that care is, if that's there for you, if that fire is there for you, stay on them. Get back in the conversation every single time. Hey, did you look at that document? Can I get your comments on it? No, really, I need your comments on it. You know, like, find points where they need to connect in and keep on them. Keep on them. Do not let off the gas. But I do wish you good luck. Feel free to reach out if you want to connect or talk about it at any time.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. So I saw, or it just came up, Katie, I think it was Katie who said it.
Yeah, I think I want to add one thing. I think I want to add something. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go for it.
Yes, so I hear you guys talking about, I think like the major problem in the industry is like the education that organization does not understand what is quality. So that's my question that I have, how to educate everyone in the way that to explain to them like, what do we need here and what do we need to give to our customer? Is it like the only software or is like the quality of a software? So
go ahead. I was going to say, this is where standards come into place, because you want to have a recurring narrative. You want to have that framing, that structure that you said, this is our service level agreements. This is one of the first things I did when I started at Calendly, because we had a huge bug backlog, and we were dealing with death by 1,000 cuts. They were small, nitpicky things, and some of them weren't even bugs anymore because they had been cleared or it had been moved the application had moved in a different way, but they got left there. And I said, we don't have an understanding of our view of quality. We need an agreement on how we're going to solve bugs, or the commitment we're going to have from an engineering standpoint and product as well to prioritize these issues. We need to be on the same page on how we're going to solve that. So it was about getting, and there was resistance, don't get me wrong. There was like, I said, we're closing all bugs that are a year old, and I was testing the waters pretty early on. I learned that there was resistance to that, and they've gotten better. We now close bugs. If they're more than a year old, it gets closed. You to deal with it. But we also don't get to that point because our SLAs, we have some that have gotten to that point, but we don't get to that point because we have the SLAs in place. So my point there is that having a structure, having a defined model, having a definition for quality in your organization gets everybody on the same page. Because anytime somebody says, what is it? How do we define this, or how do we do this? You point to the same document, the same content where you are saying, this is what our standard is. This is what the agreement is, and this is what I am monitoring, this is what I'm measuring. And when we don't hit those, we come back to, we said that we agreed to this, we said that we were gonna handle Sev 1, Sev 2, Sev 3, whatever, in this fashion, in this way. Or we said this was how we're gonna handle in-sprint bugs, right? We said we weren't gonna leak those to production, or if we did, we flipped them to production bugs, and then we treated them as we treated them the same as SLA breaches. Getting everybody in that same conversation is how you drive that standard and how you teach people about quality, because they don't know. So just telling them what they need and then repeating it and saying, I'm looking at this and we didn't adhere to it, so we need to fix it, because remember, this is what we agreed to. And just to keep that cycle going.
So you can get in touch with her. But I appreciate you all attending. Again, let me know if you have a talk you want to give. And thanks for coming out, everyone.